Hello and welcome to All 32. My name is Arabia, and here we talk all things football. Today, I am here with a very special, very legendary co host, Mr. Champ Bailey. How are you, Mr. Bailey?
Man, great. Great to be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. We had some really good week 1 games. Looking forward to the week 2 slate. That Sunday night football game, I still can't get over. I was on the edge of my seat. That fourth quarter was insane. Did you get to see it?
Sunday night. Who we have Sunday night? Because
We
it's
had
been so much
Bills,
football. The
Ravens. I
Bills
know.
Ravens. Oh my God. Hold on. So, I kept saying, because we had these group texts going on, and I just kept saying, man, they're not out of it. They're not out of it. And all of a sudden that fumble happens. And then it was all Bills from there. I mean, you just can't give a good team opportunities, and they just kept giving it to them over and over.
Yeah, and that's the
Unbelievable.
thing. Like a team like the Bills will capitalize on your mistakes. You cannot beat yourself when it comes to the Bills and give Josh Allen, the reigning MVP, the ball in those tight situations at the end of the game. And we'll kind of get into it, touch on it a little bit later, but crazy game. The Ravens have to just learn how to finish games,
That's
especially
it.
these big games. You got to be able to
Yeah.
finish it. They get up on people really fast, but you got to be able to finish the game.
Yeah. It's funny, all of a sudden you say, oh, they found a good kicker, because they had the legendary Justin Tucker all these years. And then all of a sudden you're trying to fill that gap, and it looked good until, you know,
Until it didn't.
until it didn't, right? So it's unfortunate for them, but you're right, man. They got to learn how to finish and keep their foot on their throat, so to speak. That's their
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, for 4 quarters. All right, let's get into our first segment 1v1. All right, Thursday night football game is tomorrow. We have the Commanders traveling to Green Bay for the game. Talk to me a little bit about how both of these teams are on a short week and how the Green Bay Packers and the Commanders match up in terms of the Commanders receivers matching up with Green Bay's secondary.
Well, overall, let's talk about overall. Now, I think from a team perspective, Green Bay, I feel like there was a lot of emotion, a lot of excitement around Michael Parsons coming and what he's done for that energy in the building. And then you look at the Commanders, I just feel like they're expecting to pick up where they left off. And if you look at this team, they have most of their pieces. They kind of know what they are in a sense. I think, for Jaden Daniels, it's just how does he stay on track and continue to get better? And we saw glimpses of that. But I think getting McLaurin back into the mix and comfortable with the offense is going to be crucial for them. I'm not sure about their run game yet, but here we go. Trying to figure that part out when you have a dynamic quarterback. He can fill those gaps, but here's Green Bay, man. I mean, big win against Detroit. I don't know if I expected that kind of beatdown, but I knew they would be hyped, because you got a Michael Parsons that ignites everybody. And then you got a secondary, speaking of them, that's kind of new. I mean, there's a lot of newness back there. You lose a star corner like Jair Alexander to Baltimore. And, when you take somebody, that dynamic out of your room, you're trying to figure out who's going to step up. And you just saw it's not really just about the secondary. That front is dynamic. And then you add an all pro like Michael Parsons, and now it's on another level. And we saw that they're going to lean on them most of the way. So that's sort of what's going to dictate the passing game or nullify it for the Commanders is Michael Parsons and what he does to that front. I mean, it gives them so many different ways to utilize his talents. I mean, you can have him standing up on one side and in a 3-point stance at tackle at some points. I mean, this dude he's a problem. And, unfortunate for Dallas, they lost him. But Green Bay, man, they got to be happy about getting a young player like that in the prime of his career.
Yeah, that was a great pickup. And it doesn't help the Commanders that Micah Parsons is very familiar with this team. Not
Very
just because
familiar.
he was in the NFC East and has already been up against them, but because Choate Jr., Dan Quinn were his previous defensive coaches with Dallas. So he does have the benefit of a little bit of familiarity. He's on a different team in a different scheme, but at the same time, he knows this team very, very well. And that kind of is working against the Commanders. But you spoke about Jaden Daniels. I did see some things from him in the game against the Giants where some balls were a little bit too high, some balls were overthrown, and that's okay. He also acknowledged that he has to just clean it up a little bit. But I
Yeah,
do think that Terry
that's
McLaurin,
fixable to me.
it's very fixable. No need to ring the alarms about that. Very fixable. And if I believe in anybody to fix those mistakes, it's Jaden Daniels. He studies the game. He's very focused and determined. So I think we'll see him clean his game up a lot.
Without
Also,
a
thinking
doubt.
Terry McLaurin and him need to work on that chemistry. They did miss out on some reps in training camp
And
because of
that's
his
crucial,
holdout.
man. You
Yeah,
can't understate that. That to me, that's he was their offense last year. When they needed big plays, he made them. So if
yeah.
without him, I really don't know how dynamic they can be without him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they try to incorporate Debo Samuels, and he also did really, really well. Zach Ertz is out there doing what he needs to do. He had a dropped pass, but he made it forward with a touchdown later on in that
Right.
same drive. And speaking of the running back room, I really like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. They call him Bill. He is really exciting as a rookie, a
Yeah.
really late round draft pick, but he's really exciting. It's a running back by committee at the moment with Austin Eckler. Jerry McNichols also got into the game. So offensively, this could be something special if everybody just plays their part and kind of cleans it up because again, a team like the Packers, they're not going to leave too much room for mistakes. You got to get up on them because they're also going to put points on the board.
Yeah.
Um, and conversely, I'm thinking that this will be a big test for the Commanders secondary. We've got a rookie back there, Trey Amos. Big test for
Hmm.
him. We also got Mike Sanders still in his sophomore season, seeing how he can follow up on a really good rookie year
Yeah,
from
he's
last
just in
year.
his second year. It feels like
Yes,
he's
just
been
in
there
his
forever.
second year. Yeah,
He's
last
done
year
so
he
much.
he has done so much, so impressive, especially in those postseason games, right? Like
Yeah.
that game against the Lions really stamped it for me. Like, okay, this kid is very special, and people kind of get on him for his height, but he more than makes up for it. I mean, very
No doubt.
dynamic player. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love his
Also a
game.
test for these two veterans, Marshawn Lattimore and Will Harris, to see how they'll continue to contribute to the room. So big test for the Commanders coming up Thursday Night Football tomorrow. Any last thoughts, Champ?
Well, you mentioned the rookie running back. That's what changes a team to me. When you find rookies that overperform or outperform their expectations, that's when you start looking at yourself like a good football team because you can't just depend on the veteran guys. I mean, Lattimore, yes, he's a veteran, but we all know he's on the tail end of his prime. So you can't expect him to carry the load like he's done in the past. That's where the young guys come in. So the young guys have to outperform their expectations. That's what usually propels a team to from good to elite. And that's what they're right there. They just got to clean those things up like we mentioned and make sure that they keep feeding into these young guys because they have to overperform.
Should be a really, really good game. I'm glad that it's prime time for everybody to see. A really good matchup, I think. Another week 2 game, Colts and Broncos. The Colts are coming off of a really good win versus Miami. Daniel Jones looked good, really confident team. It looks like the Broncos also coming off of a win versus the Titans. Champ, talk to me a little bit about how these two teams match up.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Colts, I'm gonna leave a question mark right beside that win because Miami looks a little discombobulated, so to speak, right? I mean, Tyreek Hill didn't look like the Tyreek Hill we've seen. Their defense didn't look as great as we've seen in the past. I mean, they've lost some pieces. Tua, oh my God. I mean, they need the best from Tua to have a chance. Now, they got weapons, and, rightfully so, we can always look at them as a threat. But they did nothing to the Colts that made me worry or at least expose the Colts' weaknesses. Now, we all know if Daniel Jones plays well, this could be a very good football team.
Yeah,
And we haven't seen that, being prior to coming to the Colts from the Giants, he just looked average.
yeah,
But I feel like, the way that they ran their offense or how they just let's just feed our monster in the backfield. You get Jonathan Taylor the ball, you make a few plays here and there. And then you see Daniel Jones get confident and start throwing the ball down the field. I mean, the Broncos got their hands full. Now, on the flip side, the Broncos look great on defense, as we expect. That defense are never going to let you down. But there has to be a time where the offense carries them in a game. And this almost looks like deja vu from last year. Bo Nix makes a few mistakes, showing his youth, but then there there there's some run game, but it's not enough to make you say, "Hey, the Broncos can run the ball down your throat."
Yeah.
So if they can't do that and be better on third down, because ultimately that's what enables you to run the ball. You convert third downs. Well, they only converted 6 of them. And without that, I don't know how good they can be because you have to find ways to protect your quarterback. And running the football is probably the best way.
Yeah.
That's the only chance they have. Now, if we see the Colts team that we saw on Sunday, I mean, they got their hands full. And it's a
Yeah.
toss up at that point. But again, the Broncos have high expectations of winning their division, and going further in the playoffs. The Colts are really just trying to figure out who they are. So hopefully they can catch them in a moment like that where they get their backs against the wall because from the first snap they had that game won against Miami. And I don't see that happening this week. But again, the Broncos can't afford to keep leaning on the defense as much as they have. Time and time again, the defense bailed them out. 4 turnovers in a game won't beat good teams.
Right. Yeah. And it could be a repeat of last year where they're just one of those teams that really get going towards the middle or later part of the season. And if
Yeah.
you think about it, you would rather your team do that. You would rather
Yeah.
get hot closer and have that momentum going into the playoffs.
But
But
nobody
speaking
likes
of the
this part. Nobody likes
yeah,
this part.
nobody likes the beginning part, especially
Yeah.
in a division like the AFC West, right? Like you already have that ceiling that it's hard for people to break with the Chiefs. Then you have the Chargers who are trying to be up and coming in that division as well. And then the Raiders are who they are. But if they want to have a chance at the playoffs, finishing the season is great, but they also want to try to get up on them pretty soon as well. And me personally, I'm really excited to see Michael Pittman Jr. on the Colts as far as the receiving end. But Pat Surtain, the reigning defensive player of the year, is
Yeah.
gonna make plays. He's a game changer. So, huge part, of course, of that defense. Very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, he eliminates the biggest threat. And when he's on his game, which he is 99% of the time, it's gonna be a problem for the other team because I expect him to match up with Pittman. Um and follow him everywhere. It doesn't look like Pittman does too much, inside, not too much, but I've seen Surtain get in there too. So let's see how they use him and move him around to keep him away from Surtain. That's gonna be something to watch.
Before Monday Night Football's Bears Vikings game, Vikings quarterback JJ McCarthy was quoted, very interesting quote, as saying, "I grew up a Bears fan. It broke my heart to see them pass on me for a different quarterback. Ohio State did something similar, though. Ask them how that turned out." Very interesting quote, seeing as how he later on went to become the first player in NFL history to account for 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter in his NFL debut. Champ, talk to me about JJ McCarthy and this Vikings game. And do you think the Vikings are going to repeat and build on their success from last season?
Wow, I gotta say, I give him a lot of credit. He always seems to get the last word, he and one up the team that looked over him. But you know, I, I I feel okay about the Vikings because they have a lot of good pieces. And that running back, man, I mean, he deserves way more credit. Mason was unreal last night, breaking tackles. I mean, he looked special. He looked like a number one back, right? So if they can ride the weapons around him, they have a chance. But let's not get it twisted. Green Bay and Detroit are in the NFC North. This was the Chicago Bears, and they're trying to still figure out who they are. And it's one of those things you see a game when you're watching it, you're like, how are the Bears winning? Yeah, okay, they're at home Monday night. It's exciting. Oh, yeah, of course they start fast, but they don't have the weapons or the experience on that team to finish games.
Yeah.
And I think the Vikings are well built for that. And O'Connell, don't give him, Coach O'Connell he is one of the best play callers in the game. and he knows his guy. I honestly was a little worried when they let a Sam Darnold walk out the door because of what he did last year. But now you start realizing, oh man, they still got this coach, man, and he just a quarterback whisperer or something. I don't know what it is, but he gets the most out of his guys. So with that, I expect McCarthy to make big plays
Yeah.
and do the necessary things to win.
Yeah.
But I'm not high on them because the competition in the division is it's unreal. That's 4 games you got to worry about, 5 when you include the Bears again, and that won't be a cakewalk either. So they got their hands full, but I do like the future of this program.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is what it looks like when you finish games. Very similar to the
Yeah.
Bills Ravens situation where the Ravens were up the whole game, but they just couldn't close the game out. Same in this situation where the Bears just could not finish the game and the Vikings took advantage. We saw some great coaching on display with Kevin O'Connell. Conversely, speaking of the Ravens, John Harbaugh. 17 blown double digit leads, which is the most since 1991 of any head coach.
Wow.
If the Ravens
What?
are going to have a chance at the postseason, at the
Ooh,
Super Bowl, and winning the Super Bowl, they have to take care. If they do get up on a team, you got to finish the game, and
yeah.
that's a heavy stain right there for the Ravens. But not talking about them right now. It's just a crazy stat because we saw Kevin O'Connell actually finish this division game, and now I'm very excited for that Packers Vikings game that's
Oh
coming up.
yeah. Yeah, and going back to the Bears, like you come out first drive of the second half, you go 3 and out. Not only that, you don't gain a yard. Like so now it's 4th and 10. You're not stopping anybody like that. It's demoralizing to a young team. I mean, you got a young quarterback that looked, I mean, he started 10 for 10 or something, like something
Yep,
crazy.
10 for
And
10.
then all of a sudden, the bottom falls out and he finishes games looking like an average quarterback. It's just unfortunate to see that because you feel like, oh man, he's making his way. He looks more comfortable. That must have been part of the script, right? It just fell apart after that, and unfortunately for him, the defense didn't do him any favors because they just
Right.
kept giving up play after play. And if you don't complement each other, offense, defense, special teams, it's not a recipe for success.
Absolutely. And like Matthew said before, sometimes these quarterbacks, if that's the best player on your team, your best player right now is a cheerleader. They're on the side,
Yeah.
they're cheering your team on, but you got to put that defense in the game, and it has to be complementary football. JJ McCarthy is 64-3 as a starting quarterback dating back to high school. So I'm really excited
Jeez.
to see how he develops in this league. He's a winner, he knows how to win.
What?
Yes. 64-3 since high school. Winning a natty
Ooh.
with Michigan, comes into the league, sits behind Sam Darnold, had an injury, and now I think he's poised. He's ready. It feels like he's ready for the moment, but it's just week one. So we're gonna see how
Yeah.
he develops throughout this season.
Yeah. If he wins in Minnesota, he will become a Midwest legend. I mean, that dude, this is a great franchise. So it's one thing to be a Michigan quarterback and win a national championship, but you end up getting to a Super Bowl and winning with Minnesota. I
Yeah.
mean, a
Yeah.
legend
A
on the
legend.
spot.
On the spot. Book it.
On the spot.
All right, that brings us to our next segment, Rookie Watch. Today's Rookie Watch is Will Johnson out of Michigan, just like JJ McCarthy. They faced the Saints on the road and won 20-13. What did you think about Will Johnson's performance versus the Saints?
Yeah, let me go back since we've been high on Michigan this whole time talking. He was my number one corner before he got hurt. And it was unfortunate because when he got hurt, it was so early in the season. And I'm like, man, I just hope people don't get down on him because when he plays and he's healthy, he is legit. I just love his instincts, playmaking ability. He's tough. He loves to tackle. He does it all. And you see when he walks into training camp or into the building in the spring, you see instant credibility. One, he don't back down from anybody in practice. I watched a lot of his practice tape. This dude was unreal, man. He'll go up against anybody, lock anybody down. So I just want to see because they've been here before, but the expectations were different in Arizona. You had Patrick Peterson 15 years ago. Now he's a retired, athlete, but at the same time, I want to see if they treat him the same way. They should have enough evidence to know that this guy is capable of matching up with the best guy every week.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they're ready to throw him into the fire yet. So I want to see how he progresses throughout the season. But right now, I've always been high on him. I love his game.
Yeah. Yeah. And versus the Saints, he had 4 receptions allowed and he had 2 pass breakups for an overall grade of 90. He actually went up against Chris Olave and he went to the Ohio State. And so, question for you, champ, do these college rivalries follow you into the NFL? Because with that Michigan Ohio State rivalry, it looked like, Will Johnson was a little excited to get in there with Olave. Does that follow you to the league?
Yeah, that's a rare opportunity, right? He's fresh in the league. I get to play a guy from my rival school in college. That's rare. Usually those rivalries play out in the locker room during the week, in your team locker room. It's rare that you get to go against guys that you played against in college, especially being able to match up against them. It's an unreal opportunity, but I mean, that fuels the fire because for him, he hates Ohio State. So to be able to go against, one of the guys that think he's the premier receiver in the league, yeah, and go shut him down. I mean, that's a big deal, especially for his first pro game. Like that's a huge step for a young kid like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And upcoming, they have the Panthers. Let's talk a little bit about how they match up with the Panthers. You've got the eighth overall pick, another rookie, eighth overall pick from this draft. I think you say his name, Tetairoa McMillan.
Hmm.
Also in that room, you've got Xavier Leggett. You've got Sanders as a receiving tight end. Jimmy Horn is there from Colorado. Not sure if he's going to be coming in as a starter, probably a backup. But how does Will Johnson perform in week 2 versus the Panthers?
Well, it depends on how they use him. I would love to see him match up on McMillan. If he's going to be a high target, that's what they should do. I mean, Will Johnson has already stamped the number one corner position on this team, so it's really going to boil down to for them stopping the run, right? Because they still have a young quarterback in Carolina, and what's my guy's name?
The quarterback, Bryce Young.
Quarterback Bryce Young. There you
Hmm.
go. So Bryce Young, I mean, he still doesn't have the experience, or he's not the threat that you know the elite quarterbacks present every week. So lucky for Will Johnson, he sort of dealt with that a little bit last week. Now this week, you got another inexperienced quarterback trying to find his way, inexperienced receiver that you probably match up with. But again, a test is a test, so he has to stand up to it. And that's the tough thing about playing cornerback in this league. You can go into a game thinking, uh, this team only scored 3 points last week, or this team only, made one big play. This guy didn't have any catches. Man, you can get your butt ate alive if you go in there half stepping. It doesn't matter. These dudes are pros. So you just never know when a team or a player is going to turn that corner
Yeah,
and start making those plays people expect to see.
yeah.
So this is going to be a test for him to see how dialed in he is. I have a lot of confidence in Will Johnson. So I expect him to go in and dominate like he did the previous week. But again, that test it's hard to pass every week. I don't care who you're playing.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the second year that we see Dave Canales and Bryce Young working together. So I think Dave Canales will try to put him in a position to succeed. We will see, but it's actually interesting that you say that because when I did the show with Matthew Judon, he kind of pushed back on the media's perception of strength of schedule. And so, you know how you'll
Yeah,
say, this
I
year
do
the
too.
49ers have the easiest schedule.
Hmm.
He's like, what does that mean? You still have to play professional athletes. If you go into a game
It
thinking,
means
oh,
nothing.
it's fine, it means nothing. And so, in his mind, he's like, that's what people who don't play football say. Oh, you have an easy schedule. What do you think about that?
It's just for talk. It's for people like us that don't play to talk about, right? Like, but I don't get. Look, your strength of schedule only matters at the end of the season, and then even then, it's like, well, yeah, of course. Yeah, Carolina might have won 2 games, but that we only beat them by 3 points.
Right.
So that wasn't an easy game.
Hmm.
So, or you could have lost to them. They beat somebody. So for me, that it's just talk. It's just something for us to talk about and make projections that really don't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the season, you can look back, but every season is different. It
Yeah.
it just is. So I don't care about what they're saying going in. I mean, we all know San Francisco has a good football team.
Hmm.
And why is their strength of schedule not as strong on paper? It's because they had a bad season.
Hmm.
They didn't make the playoffs. I mean, it was what it was for them. So it doesn't mean anything except to us talking heads that love to talk about and project things. It really doesn't matter. Like every
Yeah.
team, every week is tough.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And like he also said, no team has gone oh in anything in a long time. So all these bad teams are still winning games. So you got to respect the
Yeah,
person that you're lining up
without a
against.
doubt. Nobody's going 0 in anything these days, right? That's
Yeah,
I think those days are over.
think those days are over too. All right. Great point of view to see you guys connect on that level. Let's get to our next segment, Champs Pick. Very excited to see what you have for us today, Champ. What do you have for Champs Pick?
All right, look. All right, this is something I deal with a lot, in my everyday life is, somebody will come up to me and say, "Who do you root for? The Commanders or the Broncos?" All right.
Mm,
And it used to be an easy answer. I used to always say Broncos. But nowadays, people have to understand when you're in the game, your connection to everything is really based off the people there. And it's not more the franchise, it's more the people. Like it could be the fans, it could be people that work in the building, people on the staff, everything. Like though that's what really strengthens or deepens your connection to any franchise. So it's I root for both of them now because since ownership changed a few years ago, I've been invited back, and they welcomed me back. I spent my first 5 years in Washington. I've always wanted to be part of that family because they're such a storied franchise. I never wanted to get traded. It's part of the game. It's part of business. But I was fortunate enough to go to a team that really wanted me, and I was able to carry on my career, make a lot of money, and have a Hall of Fame career. Like I wasn't a Hall of Famer when I left Washington, but it started there. And they took a chance on me with the 7th pick in 1999. So that's always going to be with me. But again, that answer used to be easy about who I would root for. But nowadays I say both because those relationships have been rekindled. They've reached out, treated me like I'm part of the family. So it's all about the people, man.
yeah.
It really boils down to that. So I get that question a lot, and I like to answer it, in a more in-depth way, but it's always in passing. So I usually keep it short with people and keep it moving. But right now, I just had to address that. Like, I am a Bronco and a Commander. Like, those are my two teams. And
Okay.
if anybody don't like it, the hell with it.
Okay, period. So you're a
Yeah,
Bronco Mander basically, and I know you kind of went back
there
and
you go.
retired a Bronco. Hurt my soul as a Commanders fan, but I understand 100%. And like you
Yeah,
said, with the changing of ownership, I'm so happy that they invited you back to the family because why wouldn't they? And also another
yeah,
thing about you being traded, when I kind of think about trades in NFL history, that Clinton Portis Champ Bailey trade
yeah, man.
was insane. I mean, like really,
Yeah,
really crazy. Like even just the way that it
yeah.
played out for both of you guys' careers, really, really crazy. You can look at both of you guys on both teams and say these two are dogs no matter where they go. So that trade was
Without a doubt.
really, really crazy. But I'm happy that
Yeah.
you're being invited back into the fold.
And speaking on that, like I'm not gonna lie, like at the time, I was a little pissed because I was like, why do we have to give up Portis? Like, is there some more draft picks or something you could throw in the mix? But apparently, Dan Snyder wanted the sexy pick. He wanted that player, and Portis was that. Like he came off his first 2 years were great.
Yeah.
So one of the
Yeah.
best, one of the best ever. So in that moment, I understand why he wanted him. But I was mad at the Broncos for giving him up. Like, we got to fight for this guy. Like, we need him. But of
Yeah.
course, that was just part of the deal. It worked out. He wanted more money. It was time for him to get paid, and so did I.
Yeah.
So it worked out for the both of us. And, funny enough, man, I get to at least chat with him in some of our group texts and see him from time to time. So we get to reminisce about that. So all good nowadays. We all grown and moved on. It's one of those things. Like, we can smile about it and laugh about it, but again, let me say it one more time. I root for the Broncos and the Commanders
So
at the
stop
same time.
asking.
Stop asking.
Well, I'm happy, like I said, that you're invited back to the fold. And speaking of which, congratulations to Santana Moss.
Oh yeah.
They're
I meant to wear my
finally,
Santana hat today. God dang it.
yes, yes, they're finally recognizing him. That was probably one of my favorite eras of Redskins football.
It was
So
exciting.
it's very exciting. Really happy that they got that done. That's awesome. That brings us to our next segment, predictions. All right, champ, we have a Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the Eagles. What do you think is going to happen here? It's happening pretty early in the season. I think both teams would prefer for their team for it to happen maybe later in the season when they really started to pick up steam. But talk to me about
Eh,
this week 2 Super Bowl rematch.
Look, this is a big game for the Chiefs. I don't feel like there's not a lot of pressure on the Eagles. I think every snap of Jalen Hurts' life, he's gonna have pressure. So everybody's always going to doubt him. Everybody's always going to talk about the talent around him and never want to give him credit. So this is the world he lives in. But when you look at the Chiefs and how they played last week against San Diego, LA Chargers, look, this their backs are against the wall here. And I know it's a little early to say that, but this is a team that usually starts fast and they usually get early wins and they're always front running. I don't know how they're gonna act when their backs against the wall. And I feel like another loss against a good team, especially one you lost to in the Super Bowl, it could be demoralizing. I'm not really sure about the Chiefs right now. I
Yeah.
I, I don't know. I don't know. But the Eagles are for real. I don't see my guy Jalen Carter spitting on anybody this week. Hopefully he plays.
Yeah, hopefully
I
he
don't think they're
plays.
gonna suspend him, but with that being up in the air right now, let's see. I mean, usually they make these decisions by Tuesday. I haven't heard anything. I don't think he should be suspended. I think him missing last week was enough. He definitely should be fined. It's uncalled for. But for me, the Eagles don't have so much to prove. It's the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they haven't won a game since the AFC Championship. That was a long time ago.
Right.
So here we are, talking about the rematch, but at the same time, I think it's different dynamics we got to look for in this game.
I have the Eagles winning this game. Like you said, I just don't really see too many weaknesses on this
Yeah,
team.
same.
For the Chiefs, they have a rookie now at left tackle. They've had left tackle issues dating back since last season, and I think that offensive line could be a little shaky, especially against a dominant defensive line like the Eagles. And it's going to take Patrick Mahomes making up the difference for that. Great coaching from both sides. Of course, Andy Reid is going to try to put his guys in the right position. Nick Sirianni is a leader of men and gets his guys ready every Sunday. But I have the Eagles winning this game for sure and winning 2 times
Yeah,
in a row versus the
same here.
Chiefs.
That's my pick.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Moving on to Bucks Texans. Now, the Buccaneers are a team that I'm always high on if they're healthy. And it's a big if because they do seem to be plagued with injury on defense and on offense. But the Texans are a team that you cannot sleep on. CJ Stroud had a really great rookie year, his sophomore year last year. Not horrible, not horrible, but not great. And I have the Bucks in this game, but really would not be surprised if it went either way. What do you think?
Ooh, man. Speaking of the Texans, I mean, they need Joe Mixon back. Um, he just adds another layer that can't be duplicated. And for me, I'm really watching CJ Stroud and how he handles adversity. Because I feel like last year he I don't have them winning this game. But could they win? Absolutely. I feel like last year when things went bad, it just got worse. And that's one thing you learn as a pro player, especially a quarterback. Don't make bad plays worse. And for some reason, you know, I do think he's a little more poised this year, but time will tell. But I can't see a situation where they win this game unless they're making crazy turnovers and it's just, they're just playing lights out. I don't know because up and down, I mean, they got their hands full.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
They got their hands full.
Completely agree. So we're on the same page with two games so far. Let's see about this third one. Rams Titans. Now, for me, this is a no-brainer, but any given Sunday, right? The Rams being a playoff team, they will make the playoffs. Matthew Stafford being, to me, a very underrated quarterback. I think he will lead this team to the playoffs. Now, what they do when they get there is a totally different story. And the Titans, not so much. Still trying to figure things out. But I have the Rams winning against the Titans. How about you?
Well, the Titans ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, you can't play a rookie quarterback against a vet defense like the Broncos and expect good things to happen. So that was a good test for them. I do believe if they can keep Cam Ward upright and get the ball out of his hands faster, they could make some noise in this game. I'm not sold on the Rams. Uh, Fortunate enough for them, they're in a weaker division, so I expect them to make some noise. I mean, but again, that division is a little finicky too. Like
Yeah.
Arizona could beat anybody at any time, and so can the Seahawks. So
49ers.
they they could run into some issues in their division, but they should be able to handle the Titans. So I got the Rams in this one, but man, don't let Cam Ward get hot. Like if he gets hot, man, he could spin it with the best of them.
Interesting. Okay. So it sounds like you think of all three games, this one could be the one that we see the upset.
Yeah, you could. You definitely could. I don't know. I mean, because you got to think Matthew Stafford's one bad hit from being on the bench again.
Yeah.
Like they can't afford to have him take any shots or put him in any danger. So if they could get to him, it could create some issues for that offense.
Absolutely. All right. That brings us to our final segment, College Corner. All right, Chant, what's going on with the Georgia Bulldogs? You guys are currently ranked sixth. On Saturday, you play Tennessee. They are ranked 15th. What's going on at UGA?
I hope honestly we slide out of the top 10, before this game, but at the same time, here we are, still in the top 10, and I understand we loaded with talent, but I've had my questions about our quarterback. And the questions they lie in this space of I I haven't seen enough. And I think people want me to be optimistic. I'm always optimistic about my dogs, but I'm also a realist. Like he doesn't have a lot of experience. So when your head coach gets on the podium and says, "I want my quarterback to play like he plays in practice," I'm like, okay, so he's practicing hard, he's doing all the right things. What's the difference about Saturday? Well, you're in front of a lot of people, things are moving faster, teams don't do exactly what you practice, so you have to adjust and rely on just fundamentals. And for some reason, if you watch our quarterback or Gunnar Stockton closely, he's just not making reads fast enough to get the ball out of his hands. And when you second guess against good teams, we're talking about two teams that shouldn't have been on the field with us. And when we don't cover the spread in those two games, it doesn't give us hope about the first SEC game. So for me, it boils down to the quarterback. Now, the offensive line has to play better. They have to run the ball more effectively. Those are things that I know we could do better. But at the same time, when it comes to wins and losses in these close games, it's going to come down to your quarterback converting third downs, sustaining long drives, and making big plays down the field. I haven't seen any of that. So until we get that, that's when Georgia becomes Georgia. The defense is going to be the defense, but the offense can make it harder for the defense, which puts them in a position when they face the up-tempo Tennessee offense. they're going to make plays, and we can't allow many of them over and over again. So again, everything in their success is going to be boiled down to how Gunnar Stockton performs, whether it's asking him to throw 30 times or 20 times or run 20 times. Regardless, we got to get positive production out of him.
Well, good luck to the Georgia Bulldogs. They play Tennessee Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll definitely be rooting for you. That's all the time that
Thank
we
you.
have for today. Thank you so much for joining me this week, Champ. You can check Champ out every week on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Check out our episode tomorrow with Coach George Hegeman. He finally got clearance from the Colorado Buffaloes clearance department. So we can talk Colorado
What?
football now.
Okay,
All right.
good,
So
good.
we're going to have College Corner with Coach George Hegeman and talk all things Colorado Buffaloes. Check us out every week, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 4 p.m. here on All 32.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.